Elon Musk had seen many things in his life: Tesla factories, SpaceX rockets, and billion-dollar deals. But what he saw today left him frozen in place. As he drove through a quiet street in Los Angeles, he noticed an elderly man struggling to carry groceries. His clothes were worn out, and his face carried the burden of years. There was something eerily familiar about him. Musk slowed down, his mind racing through memories. Then it hit him. This was Mr. Thompson, his high school physics teacher. The man who once inspired him to think beyond the stars, to dream of Mars. But why was he in such a miserable state? How could a brilliant teacher end up like this? Musk's heart pounded. He couldn't just drive away. He pulled over and stepped out, not knowing that this one moment would change both their lives forever. Back in high school, Mr. Thompson wasn't just a teacher. He was a mentor, a visionary, a guiding force. He would spend extra hours explaining concepts to Musk, seeing the spark of genius in his student long before the world did. One day in a dimly lit classroom, he had told young Elon, "You have the potential to change the world, but never forget those who helped you along the way." Those words echoed in Musk's mind as he saw his old teacher now, a man who once spoke of infinite possibilities, now struggling to make ends meet. Without hesitation, Musk walked toward him. Mr. Thompson looked up, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Elon, is that really you?" His voice cracked, filled with both joy and embarrassment. "Yes, sir, it's me. But what happened?" Musk asked, already knowing that whatever the answer was, he wouldn't be able to walk away without doing something about it. Mr. Thompson sighed, his shoulders sinking. "Life happened, Elon. After I retired, things got tough. Medical bills, no pension. I tried tutoring, but students these days prefer online videos over real teachers." Musk clenched his jaw. A man who shaped future innovators should never have to struggle like this. "You deserve better, sir," Musk said firmly. "And I'm going to make sure you get it." Thompson chuckled weakly. "I appreciate the kindness, Elon, but what can even a billionaire do to change the past?" Musk smiled, a determined, almost mischievous smile. "Watch me." What happened next would leave the world speechless. Musk stared at his old teacher, his mind buzzing with ideas. This wasn't just about charity, it was about justice. A man who dedicated his life to shaping young minds should never have to beg for survival. "Elon, I appreciate you stopping by, but I'll be fine," Mr. Thompson said, forcing a smile. But Musk wasn't buying it. "You once told me to think beyond what seems possible. Now it's my turn to do the same for you," Musk said with determination. Mr. Thompson sighed, adjusting his worn-out coat. "I don't need handouts, Elon." Musk smirked. "Good, because I'm not offering a handout. I'm offering an opportunity." Before his teacher could protest, Musk pulled out his phone and made a call. Within minutes, everything was about to change. As Mr. Thompson watched in confusion, Musk's voice grew sharp and commanding. "I need a private jet ready in 2 hours. Destination, Austin, Texas. And find out everything about the current state of education funding in the U.S. I want numbers, now." Hanging up, Musk turned to his stunned teacher. "How do you feel about a little trip?" "Trip? Where?" Mr. Thompson asked, completely baffled. "To the future," Musk replied, eyes gleaming. Before Mr. Thompson could say anything, a sleek black Tesla Model X pulled up to the curb. The doors lifted like wings and Musk gestured toward the seat. The journey of a lifetime was just beginning. 2 hours later, Mr. Thompson found himself sitting inside a luxurious private jet, something he never imagined experiencing in his lifetime. As the jet soared above the clouds, he turned to Musk. "Elon, this is surreal, but why are you doing this?" Musk leaned back. "Because you believed in me when no one else did, and now I'm going to do the same for you." Silence filled the cabin for a moment. Mr. Thompson stared out the window, remembering the days when Musk was just a curious student, always asking questions no one else thought of. But he still didn't know what Musk was planning, and when he finally found out, it would bring him to tears. As the jet descended into Austin, Texas, Mr. Thompson still had no idea what awaited him. Musk had remained cryptic, offering only a sly smile when his former teacher pressed for details. As they stepped off the plane, A convoy of Tesla vehicles awaited them. The red carpet treatment, something Mr. Thompson never imagined experiencing. Elon, where exactly are we going? He asked, adjusting his worn-out jacket. Musk smirked. Somewhere that'll change your life. The car ride was smooth but silent, filled with an air of suspense. Mr. Thompson gazed out the window as towering buildings and state-of-the-art facilities passed by. But when the car stopped in front of a massive complex with the words Musk Education Initiative displayed on the front, his heart nearly stopped. Mr. Thompson stepped out of the car, his eyes wide with disbelief. This is a school? He asked, struggling to process what he was seeing. Not just a school, Musk corrected. A revolution in education. He led his old teacher inside, where cutting-edge classrooms were filled with AI-driven learning, robotics labs, and students working on projects that seemed light years ahead of anything traditional schools offered. Musk turned to Mr. Thompson. This is the future of education, and I want you to be part of it. The older man blinked in shock. Me? You dedicated your life to teaching, but now I want to give you something better, a chance to reshape the way we teach the next generation. Mr. Thompson was speechless. He had no idea that Musk's plan wasn't just to help him, but to change the world. Walking through the corridors of the Musk Education Initiative, Mr. Thompson felt a deep emotion rise in his chest. He had spent years feeling forgotten, but now he was being offered a second chance. But Elon, I haven't taught in years. I'm old now, he hesitated. Musk shrugged. You think I care about that? Great minds don't have an expiration date. The words struck Mr. Thompson deep. He had spent years believing his time was over. But maybe it wasn't. He watched as young students eagerly experimented with futuristic technology, their eyes filled with wonder, the same wonder Musk once had in his classroom. Musk put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You helped build me. Now let's build something even greater together. Tears welled in Mr. Thompson's eyes. For the first time in years, he felt truly seen, truly valued. Mr. Thompson's hands trembled slightly as he stepped into one of the high-tech classrooms. The walls were lined with interactive screens, displaying complex equations and engineering diagrams. Students, some barely in their teens, were immersed in advanced physics and AI programming, concepts that would have been college level in his time. A young boy, no older than 12, raised his hand. Sir, are you our new professor? Mr. Thompson hesitated. Professor? He hadn't been called that in years. I suppose I am, he answered with a nervous chuckle. Musk, standing at the back, smiled knowingly. Time to see if the old magic is still there. Mr. Thompson took a deep breath. He had taught generations of students before, but could he still do it in a world so different from the one he knew? Clearing his throat, Mr. Thompson turned to the students. All right, let's start with a question. Why do we learn? The students exchanged glances, confused by the simplicity of the question. A girl hesitated before answering. To get good grades? Mr. Thompson shook his head. We learn to solve problems, to question everything, to innovate. He walked over to a screen and wrote one word in bold. Imagine. If I had told you 20 years ago that a car could drive itself or that humans would be planning life on Mars, you'd have laughed. But someone imagined it, and now it's real. The students leaned forward, intrigued. That spark, the one he thought he had lost, was returning. Musk smirked from the back of the room. The old professor was back. After the lesson, Musk approached his old teacher. You haven't lost your touch, he said. Mr. Thompson smiled. And you haven't lost your curiosity. Musk leaned against the desk. I guess I learned from the best. Mr. Thompson studied him for a moment. This wasn't just a billionaire standing before him. This was the same boy who had once sat in his classroom, eager to learn, questioning everything. Elon, why me? Mr. Thompson asked. Musk's expression grew serious. Because you saw something in me when no one else did. Now it's my turn to return the favor. For the first time in decades, Mr. Thompson felt something he thought he had lost. Purpose. That night, Mr. Thompson sat in his new apartment, his own apartment. Not a shelter, not a motel. A real home. He ran his fingers over the polished wooden desk Musk had placed in the study. On it sat a sleek laptop, a personalized nameplate, and a handwritten note from Musk. For years, he had felt invisible, discarded by a system that once relied on him. But today, he had stood in front of a classroom again, and he had mattered. As he stared at the blank lesson plan on his laptop, something stirred inside him. He wasn't just going to teach again, he was going to inspire. The next morning, Mr. Thompson walked into the innovation lab where young minds were building the future. Drones hovered above workstations, AI programs ran on supercomputers, and robotic arms assembled complex machinery. "All right, class," he said, rolling up his sleeves. "Let's build something impossible." Musk watched from the observation deck, arms crossed, a proud grin on his face. He had given his teacher a chance, and now that teacher was shaping the next generation of innovators. One of the students hesitated before raising a hand. "Mr. Thompson, do you really think we can change the world?" Mr. Thompson smiled. "I don't think. I know." That evening, Mr. Thompson's phone rang. A voice he hadn't heard in years crackled through the speaker. "Mr. Thompson? It's Robert. I don't know if you remember me." Robert had been one of his brightest students until financial troubles had forced him to drop out. "I heard about what Elon did for you," Robert continued. "It gave me the courage to call." Mr. Thompson leaned forward. "Tell me what's going on." Robert sighed. "I had to give up on my dream of becoming an engineer. I work at a factory now. I guess I just wanted to hear a familiar voice." There was a pause. Then Mr. Thompson said something Robert never expected. "Meet me tomorrow. I think I can help." The next day, Robert hesitantly walked into the innovation lab, his work uniform wrinkled, his eyes filled with uncertainty. Mr. Thompson greeted him with a firm handshake. "I told you before, Robert, you had one of the sharpest minds in my class. That hasn't changed." Robert glanced around at the futuristic lab, feeling out of place. "But I haven't studied in years. I don't belong here." Before he could say another word, Elon Musk himself stepped into the room. "You don't belong here?" Musk raised an eyebrow. "Then prove me wrong." Musk gestured toward a prototype AI-driven robotic arm. "This is malfunctioning. It needs an engineer's brain to troubleshoot. Let's see what you've got." Robert's heart pounded. This was his chance. He took a deep breath, rolled up his sleeves, and got to work. At first, Robert struggled. His hands trembled as he navigated the complex circuits. But as he focused, something clicked. The years of passion, the lessons he once learned from Mr. Thompson all came rushing back. Minutes turned into hours. He sketched out a solution, rewired a few circuits, and ran a test. The robotic arm came to life, its precision now flawless. The room fell silent. Musk smirked. "Not bad. Ever thought about working here?" Robert's jaw dropped. "You mean me? At Tesla? SpaceX?" Musk shrugged. "Why not? Talent doesn't disappear. It just needs the right opportunity." Tears welled in Robert's eyes as he turned to Mr. Thompson, who gave him an approving nod. "Welcome back, Robert," he said. "Now let's get to work." Weeks later, Robert wasn't just working at the innovation lab. He was thriving. He had gone from a factory worker to an engineer in training at one of the most advanced tech companies in the world. And it all started with a simple phone call. One evening, he found himself standing outside Mr. Thompson's office. He knocked, stepping inside. "You changed my life," Robert admitted. "I want to do the same for others." Mr. Thompson smiled. He had heard those words before, from Elon Musk himself. "Then let's start with the next generation," Mr. Thompson said, pulling out a lesson plan. Robert grinned. "Let's do it." One day, Musk invited Mr. Thompson, Robert, and the brightest students from the lab to a private SpaceX launch. As they stood near the launch pad, the countdown began. Mr. Thompson looked at the sky, then at the students, his students, the young minds that would one day change the world. Robert nudged him. "This all started because you believed in us." Mr. Thompson chuckled. "No, Robert. It started because someone believed in me." The rocket soared into the sky, carrying not just technology, but dreams. Years later, a new student walked into the innovation lab, nervous and unsure. Robert, now a lead engineer, smiled and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You remind me of someone I used to know, he said. The student looked up. Really? Who? Robert chuckled. A kid with potential. Someone just waiting for the right opportunity. From across the hall, Mr. Thompson watched with pride. The cycle had come full circle. One teacher, one student, one moment, and a legacy that would never fade.